G'day folks and welcome to an Oz Cyclone Chasers public cyclone update today, the 21st of December 2015. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update sponsored by a major sponsor, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. And looking at the OCC satellite image here, we can see the water vapor imagery showing us very heavy convective activity coming in on that monsoonal trough. We saw a lot of rainfall across the Gove and Nhulunbuy region, saw a lot of rainfall across Darwin overnight and into early today. And right here where that heaviest convection is, that's where our tropical low lies. Taking a look at our OCC visible imagery here, we can see that there is very heavy convection right over the top of, or very close to where that low is located, but there is certainly nothing that appears in terms of rotation here. So if we take a look at the weather zone radar, now, the weather zone radar paints a slightly more interesting picture. We have a tropical low circulating in this Borroloola region, probably just inland of the southwestern Gulf of Carpentaria there. And that's pretty obvious here on radar imagery. Now, at least in the mid-levels, if it's not a surface level feature, it's definitely a mid-level feature, and we can definitely tell that on the radar imagery at the moment. Now, there also appears to be another little area of vorticity here just off the west coast of the Northern Territory, and that was pretty well modelled by the GFS forecast model. They expected a bit of spin up here, and they also expected a spin up here. That's exactly what we're getting. The Bureau of Meteorology are giving this system a high probability of developing into a tropical cyclone. High probability means over 50%, folks, so it doesn't mean 100%, so it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that it's got a reasonable chance of happening, especially if it can make it out over the water. So that's the key here. At the moment, it's over land. It's expected to remain over land now. The computer models are showing us it remaining over land for at least the next day or two, which is going to decrease this potential. So this potential is obviously only valid if the system makes it over water. Computer models are all over the shop, very inaccurate at the moment. We just don't know exactly what's going to happen here. We've got a lot of things happening, and they really don't have much of a clue for the moment. The general expectation is that it will move slowly to the southeast or east-southeast or even south-southeast from where it is now, and eventually move into northwestern parts of Queensland or the southeastern parts of the Gulf country. That's the expectation. How quickly it does that, well, it's anyone's guess, really. Look, what we can probably rule out is a system that's located off the coast between Townsville and Cairns in 4 or 5 days. That's not going to happen, at least not from this low. There might be a new spin-up here near Cairns, but that might be a whole new low. And I think this is where the computer models are really struggling. What is this low in the Gulf, and what could be a new low? A very weak one, by the way, just off the coast of Cairns, just enhancing a lot of rainfall here on the North Tropical Coast. Equally as useless is the Canadian CMC model. You can see the ensemble here all over the shop. You really can't pay much attention to it yet. If we take a look at the European forecast model here, we can see there's a very broad area of low pressure here across the southwest Roper-McArthur district as well, extending all the way inland into the central parts of the NT. In 24 hours time, we see that low located here on the southwest Gulf of Carpentaria coast. 48 hours time, really nothing happens. It sort of has a bit of a holiday coming up to Christmas. 72 hours time, it's Christmas Eve, it still does nothing. Christmas Day, still does nothing, still having a holiday. It's not until Boxing Day now that the European actually does something with this tropical low. And you can start to see it developing here as it tracks slowly to the southeast or east-southeast, parallel to the coast almost here along the southern Gulf. As we go to 144 hours time, we can see that the system intensifies into a tropical cyclone. At 168 hours, it makes landfall as a Cat 2 or 3 cyclone. Don't pay any attention to the actual intensities, because that's going to change, no doubt about it. So on the Euro, while it's having a holiday, while that low in the Gulf's having a holiday, there's another little bit of interest just out here off the coast of Cairns. You can see a little bit of a dip in the isobars. That's showing us the potential there for a little new spin-up along that monsoon trough, and that could enhance some really heavy rainfall here around the Cairns coastline. So interestingly, the first sign of that spin-up actually looks like it forms around about Christmas Eve morning up here to the north of Cairns, between Cairns and Cooktown. And what it does is create that enhanced convergence area right here around that Cairns region. And then as the system sort of remains very slow moving and near the coast, you continue to see enhanced weather across that tropical coastline. Now, At this stage, it looks like it's fairly localized weather, but the rainfall totals from it could become quite significant if it develops, of course. Now, with a monsoon trough, the big question, folks, is just if these things develop. It's too hard to tell. You can see that it's not until Boxing Day that the European decides it wants to start moving this system and actually making something of it, and it's about as far as I want to take you here is Boxing Day night. You can see the system really beginning to ramp up now into a tropical cyclone as it tracks towards the east-southeast across the southern Gulf. Eventually, the system on the Euro, as I said, will make landfall somewhere in the southern Gulf. At least that's what it says at the moment. It's going to chop and change from that a fair bit. That's completely different time frames and completely different scenario compared to the GFS. Here's a GFS forecast model, and we can see the lows spinning around out there, not doing much, and eventually starts to get itself together on its approach to the coast, but it's probably a bit too late there. It's still very elongated, it's very monsoonal, it's very messy, and you can see that that it just takes far too long to get itself together to become a cyclone on the GFS, and it has already made landfall on the GFS forecast model by the Christmas morning or late on Christmas Eve. And from then, we can see that the system will track in a southerly direction. You can see some very heavy winds here across the northeast coast of Queensland, so 25 to 30s quite likely. And obviously, with that sort of northerly to northeasterly fetch on most of that northeast coast of Queensland, you're going to see some very heavy rainfall if the GFS model comes out. Comes off. The other thing to note is the possible spin up of another little low. Just like the one off Cairns, the GFS model's going for a possible spin up just here off Townsville. So obviously the big difference there is that if the spin up off Cairns happens, Cairns gets bulk rainfall. If the spin up off Townsville happens, Townsville gets bulk rainfall. Anyone's guess what's going to happen, really. I'm sorry I can't be more definitive, folks, but that's just the nature of the beast. As the monsoon develops and starts to intensify or deepen, if you like, until we start to see a proper low-pressure system on the ground actually deepening and developing, the rest of this is just a flip of the coin. You've got another reputable computer forecast model here, the UK Met. It usually comes out at number 2 or number 3 in the world, and we can see here that it's developing a completely different scenario. It's developing, that low that I just showed you on radar imagery earlier in this broadcast. It's developing that one as the dominant circulation. It doesn't want a bar of this one here near Borroloola, and it pushes that one in an easterly direction across the top end, and then a southerly direction just west of the NT border. So, folks, as I mentioned, it's futile to predict too much for you now until one of these lows really starts to get going. And the best way we can keep doing that, best way we can keep an eye on that is through satellite imagery, through radar imagery over the next 24 to 48 hours. And finally, in about 48 hours' time, we should have a much better idea as to what's going to happen. I do say should because they could still be stuffing around and not doing anything, these two little lows, in which case we just have to wait and wait and wait until one of them decides to get itself together. But the most interesting take-home message at the moment is while this NT Gulf low just decides to do nothing for the next day or two, it is very important to understand that should that little spin-up happen off the coast of Cairns, you're looking at an extremely wet Christmas Day. So for tomorrow, we're going to have a lot of convective activity over the Gulf of Carpentaria, creating a lot of rain and storm activity. Most of that is going to be located out over the water. However, the Roper-MacArthur district here in the Northern Territory is expecting to see a lot of activity as that low-pressure system just sits there for the next 24 hours or so. At least that's what's modelled to do anyway. The western coast of the top end could see some of this really heavy convective activity moving onto the coast itself. Over the Queensland region, isolated showers along the tropical coast, tending to scattered shower activity here over the eastern and northern peninsula. Also a fair amount of shower and storm activity across inland parts of WA as well as the North Kimberley. On Wednesday you can see this convective area out here off the coast of Darwin, and that is fairly well modelled in a lot of the computer models. So it'll be very interesting to see on Wednesday whether that can make it onto the coast. It only needs to go another 100k further east, and Darwin's getting smashed up with a lot of rainfall there on the Wednesday. But at this stage, it is expected to remain offshore with just scattered monsoonal showers making it onto the coast. But you need to play this one by ear, and also watch the latest satellite and radar animations to see what will be happening with that particular convergence zone / little low. The low here over the Roper MacArthur expected to remain in place or around the southwestern Gulf. Heavy shower and storm activity making it onto the southern Gulf Coast here on Wednesday, as well as an increasing rainfall in the Cooktown to Cairns region developing here on Wednesday. Much lighter falls further to the south. On Thursday, we see heavy rain developing across the Cairns to Cooktown area, 50 to 100 millimetres, possibly more than that, depending, of course, on whether we see that spin-up happen. You can see this area of convergence located right near Darwin there on the Thursday, so Christmas Eve could be very wet. Once again, expected to remain just offshore, but as I say, a 50 or 100k shift further to the east, and Darwin is getting pummeled with a lot of rain. So definitely a very big interest area for us as we go to Wednesday and Thursday. That is what's happening around Darwin. That low in the Gulf and the NT not really doing much still on Thursday. However, there is a little bit of model variation on that. Obviously, if you follow the GFS forecast model, we'll see an increase in rain across the southeast Gulf of Carpentaria, Western Peninsula. And on Friday, we just see models all over the shop. We just don't know what's going to happen. You can see here a bunch of different outcomes. You've got very heavy rainfall possible here just off the coast between Cairns and Townsville and all the way probably even as far as Bowen. You've got very heavy rain in the southeast Gulf of Carpentaria, which may or may not happen. You've got heavy rain in the southwest Gulf of Carpentaria, may or may not happen. You've got heavy rain in the inland parts of NT. Once again, may or may not happen. So it's just too variable, folks. There's no point looking out to Friday because we just can't give you a credible forecast, and no one will. And if anyone tells you they know what's going to happen by Friday, they're dead set lying to you, because we just don't, and there's no computer model that's accurate enough at the moment or has cottoned onto the situation well enough at the moment to tell you exactly what's going to be happening by Christmas. So we know there's going to be widespread rain, but where those heaviest falls are going to be, we don't know. And at this stage, that widespread rain expected to remain north of about Townsville in Queensland, so just north of Townsville, and all the way extending through into the North Peninsula, Central Peninsula region, also in the Northern Territory around that top end coast. It's going to be heavy rainfall for the next 4 days. They're the sort of things we can confidently tell you. But in terms of lows and cyclones, we just don't know. I hope you can understand just how difficult an update this was to make because of such huge model variations, which we do occasionally see through the year. And those occasions tend to happen when we've got a moderate to strong monsoon and the possibility of multiple lows that could spin up on it. Anyway, the first people that will know what's going on as soon as we do will be our subscribers. So if you'd like to be a subscriber, go to AusCycloneChasers.com.au, click on the subscribe link, which is just there, subscribe to OCC, and you can help us out with our documentary efforts as well as get all the latest information from us on cyclone developments. Thanks for watching this update, folks. Sorry I couldn't be too more helpful for you tonight. Hopefully Wednesday night I could be a little bit more useful to you in our update. So our next update for the public will be Wednesday night.